I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the science behind the COVID vaccine. And I'm going to do my best to do this in a way that is not overly confusing, but also that, respects all of you, because I think a lot of folks are saying, well, dang, why won't anybody break down the science of it? What am I actually getting? And I think that is a really reasonable thing to want to know. And I'm a nerd, so I love any opportunity to teach. Okay. So we'll first start with a couple, two basic things that I want to start with. The first basic thing is understanding the difference between DNA and RNA. So your DNA is like your blueprint. Think of it like if you build in a house and you need a blueprint to say, all right, this is the floor plan. This is what it's going to be like. This is what's going to be on the first floor, how many bathrooms, where the hallway is going to be. That big sheet that you lay out that says what it all is, that is what DNA does, okay? Next is RNA, or as it relates to the COVID vaccine, mRNA or messenger RNA. And what mRNA does is think of it like a contractor that says, all right, so we got the blueprint. Now let's give you some instructions about what to do. I want you to put this here. I want you to put this here. I want you to build this way. You know what? Yeah, let's put some granite right here. Let's do this. A contractor kind of makes sure that they give the clear instruction so that what is on the blueprint gets executed. Does that make sense? All right. So why this is important is because the COVID vaccine is not a DNA vaccine. You're not getting something that's going to interrupt your blueprint, change who you are, encode into you, track you wherever you're going, none of that. What it is just like an mRNA vaccine. So think of it like a little tiny baby contractor coming into your cells and telling certain cells what to do. Okay. That might sound scary to you because you're like, I don't want nothing coming into my body and into my cells, telling my cells what to do. That makes sense. So I'm going to break this down a little bit further. So these really smart people, when COVID came out, they said, all right, shoot, this SARS-CoV-2 virus, let's map this whole thing out and let's in reverse figure out what the blueprint is of this virus. And that's what they did, right? So they did all of that, worked that thing all the way out. And when they looked at the whole virus, they saw that the virus has a bunch of proteins, 29 different proteins. But one of the proteins on the COVID virus is super gangster. And the most gangster one is this one called the spike protein. And that's the one that deboes up into people's cells and gets them sick. So these scientists, people like, Kizzy Corbett and all of these other folks, they said, you know what? What if we create a vaccine based upon the instructions on how to just build that little spike protein? And what if your body built some of that spike protein, and not the whole virus, but just that spike protein? And what if your body saw those spike proteins getting built and said, yo, this ain't supposed to be here, and developed an immune response? Similar to what happens when you actually get COVID, but instead just aimed at that spike protein, right? Okay, so let's back it up a little bit. So what they did was that they developed an mRNA vaccine, which only is a little information just to code for that little spike protein. Now, the other piece you have to know, because I'm going to just nerd all the way out, is that you can't just roll up on somebody's body and think that if you have a little piece of messenger RNA, you can just hand it to their cell and their cell's going to be like, yo, thank you. You have to kind of wrap it up in something. So it's kind of wrapped up in something called this lipid layer that allows it to get into your cell. Okay, so 1, it's not a DNA vaccine. 2, it's a mRNA vaccine, but it's only coding for that little gangster spike, that one spike, not the whole virus. So you're not getting the whole virus. 3, it's wrapped up in this little lipid jacket so they can get inside of your cell. Okay, so now we're at the point where this little piece of mRNA that's in your vaccine has gotten inside of your cell. So remember, the mRNA is like the contractor. So this little contractor has now gotten inside of your cell when you got your vaccine, and it says, all right, what we getting ready to do is we about to build this spike, okay? And, you know, you got all the materials in your body already to make the spike protein. So your body is like, let's do this thing. And your body, your cell is like, oh, this is what we doing? So we start making spikes. Spike, 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 spike. You making these spikes. So, you know, no big deal so far until your cell goes like, wait a minute. This ain't something that like is supposed to be in your body. This is not something from us. This is coming from somewhere else. Somebody has invaded us. This is like a foreign material. You know what? Hey, immune system. So it calls out to the immune system, and these cells called macrophages roll up, and they just swallow up the cells with the spikes in them whole. But check this out. This is what's so dope about our immune system. Before the macrophages swallow it up whole, something happens first. And what happens first is that your body says, you know what? We got these T cells and we got these B cells, and we remember you. Kind of like somebody who did you dirty, but then they come back smiling, acting like you forgot. That's what your immune system does. Okay, so what your B cells do is it makes antibodies. And antibodies are gangster, because what they do is they get made and then they sit back in the cut and wait for something to pop off, okay? They don't do anything until something pops off. The T cells just kind of be on the lookout, almost like, you know, the little lookout dude, like, let me see what's going on. Okay, so you get your dose of vaccine. Your body, you know, makes these antibodies. The T cells now know what the spikes look like, so they on the lookout. And the other really dope thing about mRNA is it doesn't even stick around. It's like the UPS man. It comes, drops off the instructions with the little contractor, the contractor says what he has to say, and then disappears. So after you get the mRNA, it's gone. It ain't even like you have anything still living in your body, right? All right, so then COVID, you go, let's say you go to, you know, see your friend's mama, and she come up to you and she's like, oh, I'm fine. And she start laughing in your face and her mask is like under her nose, and she got COVID. And the COVID then creeps into your body. And then here comes COVID rolling up on your body, right? With them gangster spikes, right? But when the gangster spikes get into your cell, remember, now we got some memory. So the T cells are like, oh, hell no, that ain't not who I think it is. And then the B cells are just gangster. They just be like, break yourself, fool. And they roll up and just. Now, the more antibodies you have, right? The more antibodies you have to roll up, the better, which is why we give you one dose and then we give you another dose. So you can have all them antibodies ready and waiting. So I think like when you get the first dose, it'll be like 50-something%. But by the time you get that second dose, you like in the 90-something% range. So that's pretty much how it works. So if you have ever been somewhere where you saw somebody and you thought they were cool, and then they showed up and they did something crazy to you, and then a whole bunch of time went by, and then they rolled up on you again, and you had forgot, but your friend was like, that's that person that said so-and-so. Your friend is like a helper T cell. They're like, yo, And then if you got a bunch of really crazy friends, they can just be like antibodies and just bum rush without saying nothing, no conversation. So that's the science behind what's happening. It is not a DNA vaccine. It is an mRNA vaccine coding for this little gangster spike that gets wrapped up inside of this little lipid blanket, gets in your cell, steps in, says, yo, make some spikes, then disappears. Your body starts making the spikes, and then the body realizes it's foreign, scoops it all up, but not before the immune system says, we remember that. Okay, we remember that. And creates the little army of antibodies so that when something happens next time or pops off, it ain't going down like that. So you need to get vaccinated. Don't say you don't understand anymore. And I need to go. and get my dog because he's in doggy daycare today. That's all I got. This is your girl, Grady Doctor, and I'm out. Get vaccinated. Don't miss your shot.